I am the co-founder of BPHL and a senior innovation consultant at Independence Blue Cross. And welcome to another episode of our virtual Fireside Chats on the BPHL Facebook page. I am super excited today. We are talking to two-time Emmy-winning producer of Conan, Aaron Bleyaert. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Hey, man, what's up? Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's doing okay. Not feeling too lonely in their houses.
Yes. Well, that's why we're doing this, so that we can,
Right.
talk to people and get some information out there still. And what's great about this series that we've been talking to people in different industries to give them ideas of how to obviously cope with what's going on, learn some new things, and also see how they can be creative, and stay creative at home when they are by themselves, because that's hard. So before we get into anything, I want to say, I said this to you before, but thank you so much for coming to Philly last year to be part of BPHL. It was awesome. You did not only one session, you did two different sessions, and people absolutely loved it. Like, I still have people come up to me and say how great your sessions were. My wife was just talking about it today because she went to one and she was like, it was awesome. So she was so excited to see this.
That's why I pay people to like me. There you go. Exactly. Yeah, man, that was super fun. And thanks for having me. This is great. I also thought this is a great opportunity because, everybody's like quarantined and not supposed to be social distancing. So I wanted to make sure that people could still see bad fashion. So I wore this shirt. I think that's important. It's got, I don't know if these are planets. What is this? Nobody knows. Don't look too close. You'll be blinded. But yeah, it's a weird time right now. And it's a scary time. It's a very depressing time. And it's weird. I don't know how you feel, but I think I always have this sense whenever honestly I make anything, but just generally about life is like, many times I'll think of like future Aaron and like future Aaron looking back on this time. And it's really weird to be like living through history. This is like an unprecedented time, it feels like, World War II or something, a global event. And I think that can be really scary, but that can also be, in a certain way, very interesting. And I think that when people are forced to change and forced to, change their behavior and the way that they live their lives, a lot of good can come out of that. And I think a lot of good eventually will come out of this, which is great. Not the least of which is us using technology to communicate with each other. I mean, just look at this. Like, you and I would probably see each other once a year. If I had my way, never again. But and I've been doing a lot of this, and I think a lot of people have been catching up with friends over video chat, which is a technology that's existed for years and years, but we haven't done it. If that's as simple as having drinks, over Zoom or over Skype or something, or catching up with family members. I've been Skyping with my mom and my sister, which is both good and bad, but. So I think that's really cool. And I think there are, hopefully, when this is kind of all done, some silver linings, and those things I hope continue.
I definitely think that obviously this is going to change the way we interact with people as a whole. But I really think that this aspect of just video chatting with someone, obviously we've had it, like you said, for years, but it hasn't really been a thought in your head like, oh, I could just go and video chat with this person, or I could and it seems so weird to say that because it's so easy and simple. But this has obviously forced us to be like, oh, we can actually go and see someone in person and drive to see them, but we can also video chat and even if we want to do a project with someone that's far away or whatever. A friend of mine, him and I do videos together and whatnot. And I was like, dude, let's live chat and write something together. And he was like, why haven't we thought of that before? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Right. Well, for me, it is a thing of like, I think one of the reasons why I never did it, and this seems weird coming from someone who does a lot of performing, but it felt like too much pressure because like, for me, I am like an extroverted introvert. And it's weird. When do you talk to somebody staring into their eyes the entire time? Never. And so for me, it felt like a lot of pressure, like emotional pressure to video chat with people. But then I got over that hump. And I think that's true. I think people are finding that with creating things also and being creative. Like, I think that not everybody is as narcissistic as me. And I think that most people, I think, have a desire to create and be creative and make stuff and express a feeling or a thought or an emotion or a voice they have inside. but they were always maybe too scared to do it, or never had the time, or never knew how to do it, and all this stuff. And I think that is one very cool thing about us being quarantined and this kind of time where we have all this technology available to us. And people, I'm really loving seeing people get over that hump and that emotional hurdle, mental hurdle of making something, and people just trying stuff. I mean, how often have you seen on Instagram Live somebody being like, all right, well, I know this is going to be terrible, but I'm just going to do it. And then they do it. And it is terrible. But then they do it again. It's a little bit better. And they do it again. And it's a little bit better. And then they get better. That's how you get better at something, is by being terrible at it and then continuing to do it. And I'm loving that. I'm loving seeing this explosion of creativity all over, which is really cool.
And that's actually a perfect segue into my first question in that you've been creating a lot of content yourself. Before this, but obviously right now you've been doing so much. How can you really, I guess, how has your process changed, and how has your creative flow changed now that we're in isolation?
So I think, to step back a little bit, I think, one of the things, obviously I'm extremely lucky to have worked at Conan for, like 20 years. And it's really interesting because, the way, not all television production, but the way our television show works is we have these weeks off throughout the year. So since we're a late night show, we don't do like, a sitcom will do 8 months and then have 4 months off or whatever. SNL has summers off. We didn't have that. We would work throughout the year, including like Thanksgiving and Christmas and all that stuff. But we would have a week off here, a dark week here, a dark week here throughout the year. That was honestly, like, I think determined basically on sports schedules, or like, I don't know, whatever. It's all mysterious. It's chicken bones and voodoo. But, and so over the past couple decades, I've had been lucky enough to have these dark weeks where I'm just not working. And that has forced me over the years to come up with my own routine and come up with self-discipline and motivation to do stuff on my own, or else. And I've had weeks where it's just like, pancakes, popsicles, and sunbathing every day, which was tough when I lived in New York because there's not a lot of sun. But and I, apartment with no sunlight. But and so I think that getting into a good routine early on was really good for me, and setting goals. And we talked about this, when I spoke in Philly. But it's one of these things where setting goals for yourself is really important, and holding yourself to certain goals, even if they're tiny. I'm going to read 2 pages of a book today. Yeah, that's okay. That's great. You're setting a goal for yourself, and hold yourself to it. And so I think that's one thing that I think I'm seeing a lot of people struggle with now, is getting into a good routine. They're at home. Most of us, our routine is determined by external forces, right? I have to be at work at 9. I get lunch at noon. I get off work at 5. The gym closes at 9. My favorite TV show comes on, whatever. Well, I guess we're all DVRing. So, but so that kind of a thing. And now we're forced to really create that routine ourselves. And I think that I'm seeing people do that, which is good. But for me, creativity in many ways comes from structure. And, they say, an obstacle and a hurdle is a great opportunity to come up with something creative. If you can do anything, you won't do anything. So you need to put these kind of limits on yourself. And now that we just have tons of time to do anything, I think some people are getting paralyzed by it. So I think that, for me, making stuff, I've always been like, oh, I want to put out a video every week. I want to try to live stream once a week, all these things. And that's kind of been compressed now because I have all these systems in place and the equipment and all that stuff. So I was like, I'm going to stream every night for 2 hours. Yeah. And that was initially, at 7 p.m. every night. That was initially me getting into a routine and saying, I need to have a target to shoot for every day, or I'm not going to put on pants. It's all about putting on pants. So I said, okay, from 7 to 9 every night, I'm going to stream. I don't care what. It's just going to be whatever. And then I backed that up. And so I was like, well, if I'm going to stream at 7, that means I got to eat at 6, which means I got to work out at 5, which means I got to get all my work done by 4:30, which means, and then so I backed it all up from there, which means I got to get up at 8, and so I think that that's important. If you want to be creative, I would first say, don't worry about making something, worry about getting into a good routine, and putting, and setting little goals for yourself. So, and yeah, it's been great. I mean, I think that it's been really good for me just emotionally to connect with other people every day. Like I said, it's been really good for me emotionally and mentally to have a structure to my day. It's, kept the voices away or just quieted them. Or just made them be nicer. Honestly, they're just as loud. But yeah, so I think that's a big thing. And yeah, also it's one of those things where once you start doing stuff, you realize not everything is great. Some stuff is going to suck, but that's okay because you're doing it the next day also. So there's a really long answer to your question.
No, it was great. And it's like what we were talking about earlier. You have to try something. Like you're going to fail. Just try it and you'll get better and you'll be more creative as you do.
I'm seeing in the chat, Rich says, great point. What do you suggest people who lack self-discipline do to make the shift? You know what? I think it's the smallest of goals. It literally is the tiniest possible step you can do. Make yourself do it. Like whatever you think the lowest bar, this is at the very bottom of the screen, I think. Set your goal to be even lower than that. Like when I first started working out, it was one of these things where I had to give myself permission to like do just a little bit, and then I had to stop. So I was like, I got on the treadmill and walked for 5 minutes. And I told myself after 5 minutes, even if you're not tired, you have to get off. You're only allowed to do 5 minutes. Oh, wow. So I would say if you're having problems being disciplined, set a goal for yourself and then make yourself stick to that goal. Like if you're cleaning your house, there's a great website I love called, I'm not going to swear, but Unf Your Habitat, which is great. And the person who came up with Unf Your Habitat came up with this thing, which is a 20-10. So you clean for 20 minutes and rest for 10 minutes. You can only clean for 20 minutes and you have to rest for 10 minutes. And so I like to apply that to myself creatively. I'm only allowed to edit for an hour and that's it. It doesn't matter if I'm on a roll, we're done. Yeah. And then the next day you'll be like, oh man, I want to get back at that. So to Rich, I would just say, set a very small goal and make yourself only do that goal for a while until because then you'll want to do it. You're going to be like, I wish I didn't have to stop, but I do have to stop. So that'd be my goal. I mean, that'd be the thing I have to say.
And that's a great point. Because I mean, I know for myself, like I want to go big or go home kind of person. There's not that middle ground.
Yeah, me too.
And I know I have to do that stuff for myself. Like when I'm trying something, I'd be like, all right, I'm just gonna do this part and then this part. So that's great. You put it so eloquently, better than I would have ever said for that response.
Yeah. I mean, I think during this time, it's important, especially if you are a creative person or want to be a creative person. Yeah. And by the way, being a creative person means you just do one tiny thing. It's not like a huge bar to be creative.
And that's what I was going to say to you. That's actually one of the questions. Like, what is creativity? Like for me, creativity is just, it's not, I think people think of creativity as they're doing something completely new and it's never been seen before. And that's why people struggle with creativity or trying to be creative. It's like, no, it could be tweaks on things. It could be something small, and that's
there is no original thing. I mean, Jesse says, I need a target or I'm not going to put on pants. I need that stitched on a pillow. You know what? Stitch it on a pillow yourself. Create a business. But I think and that's a really great point, is there is no original idea. Yeah. I really love Christopher Nolan and I watch a ton of interviews by him and he's so brilliant and he's like, wow, Inception, whatever. But then, in an interview, he'll say, "Oh, and that I got that from this movie Key Largo," and you're like, "Oh, right." He is also there's a police chopper going by my house because I live in a bad neighborhood. So yeah, I mean, there is no real original idea, and I think that really speaks to another thing which I feel a lot, and I know a lot of people have been feeling out there, which is like being hard on yourself. It's so easy during this time, there's this meme going around like Shakespeare wrote Macbeth during the, whatever, the Black Plague or whatever it was. And everybody feels like they need to, oh my God, I have so much time. Oh, Jesus. Oh, God, I got to write the best novel ever. Oh, my God, I have to do this crazy. No, man, it's cool. Just chill out. Be nice to yourself. All right. There's a global pandemic. Okay. Don't be too hard on yourself. We're going through a really crazy time. If you do nothing, you're doing great. Everybody is doing great. You don't have to make something. It's okay to just sit there and watch Love is Blind over and over, which is what I do in my free time. Just screaming at the TV because but it is true. It's like, I think, and that's what I mean when I say, like, only let yourself do one little thing and then stop, pencils down. Like, you'll work yourself to death, and there's no reason to torture yourself. Doing little things will equal big things. And by the way, no one who's ever done a big thing has ever birthed it fully formed. Like everyone, it's all little bricks. It's all little tiny victories. Even whatever, Inception, even any of these monster, giant, huge things, pieces of art that people have made. The Sistine Chapel was brushstroke by brushstroke. He didn't just like throw it up there. It's like, so you have to think about and be nice to yourself of just little victories every day, and that's enough. Enough. Then go take your pants off and go, eat a bunch of whatever you do for fun.
No, those are absolutely great points. I think that can be strung across any industry, obviously, as well. So for you, for doing Conan, now that you're doing Conan at home, how is that adjusted? For one, obviously you're filming, or he's filming by himself at home, and you guys are editing and doing all that. So how does that change the way you guys work for the writing process and everything? And I also want to say, before you answer that question, that for people that want to ask any question of Aaron, feel free to go in the comments and ask away. And we'll get to them as we're going. But yeah. So how's it?
I'll answer the probably most asked question. I don't know why I'm wearing this shirt. I don't know. And I'm sorry. It's I don't know, and I'm sorry for the shirt. I mean, I think that's a real challenge, and kind of going off what we were just saying, I haven't been this not involved with the linear show in like a decade, and so it's really hard for me to say, to make the contributions that I've made and be like, that's enough. I mean, it's really tough. And that was a hard adjustment for me to make, to say like, wow, I was doing X and now I'm doing X minus a million, for the show. So, and my jobs, all of our jobs have kind of shifted as we work remote. Are the people who have been putting together the show, our editors and writers and those things, are doing a fantastic job. It's really exciting, frankly, for me to watch the shows as a fan and not know what I'm going to see. I mean, I see when he uploads stuff, I get the notifications or whatever, but I don't watch them because I would just watch the show, and it's really cool. And it's exciting in that way. Producing the podcast still, that's something, I'll hop on, like whatever, 6 of us will hop on a Zoom with Conan and do the podcast stuff. And that's been really exciting. And it's, again, it's cool to check in with him. I used to see that guy every day, and now I see him like once a week, and it's not terrible, I'm going to be honest. But no. And so that's still great. Obviously the podcast transfers much easier once we got it kind of up and running and everybody got equipment and all that stuff. And that was a real trick. That took about a week and a half to get everybody set up at their homes to do stuff. But yeah, that's been going smoothly and it's transitioned really well. And then, the big challenge, I think, for us, and I don't want to tell tales out of school or say things I shouldn't, but it's kind of like we have all these things we're working on and these projects we're working on. The big challenge is kind of looking down the road. You've seen a lot of your favorite TV shows and movies being postponed, and nobody really knows what these next few months hold for entertainment. And so, we're making stuff, we have stuff in the pipeline, but it's kind of like, well, what's going to happen with this? When are we going to release this stuff? How are we going to release it now? I think that we were very lucky, very fortunate. Conan, and I said this before, but his attitude has always been, let's try it. Let's try it. And that's led to us becoming very digital forward. And, we've really been the tip of the spear when it comes to, getting ourselves out there and being on a number of different platforms, making a lot of different content and having this giant portfolio of, creative projects that are, digital, linear, a podcast, all these other things. And so I think we're very well positioned for this kind of thing, unfortunately. And so we just continue making stuff, and our team is so smart, and we have so many, everybody is kind of a Swiss Army knife and has such a great skill set, which is really fantastic. But so yeah, I think in a certain way, it's been much easier for us to transition into continuing to make stuff and content during this time than it has for a lot of other people. But those people now are doing what we've been doing the past decade or so and putting those systems in place. But that being said, I think that's kind of, for us looking forward, where's this going to go? How can we continue entertaining people and giving them an escape, making them laugh during this very dark time and scary time, and really connecting with people? I think that, and again, it trickles from the top. Conan and Jeff, our EP, are so great, and they're really just nice, genuine, cool human beings. Yeah. And they've always been very fan focused and fan centric. And so, we've been very lucky to have this great community of our fans who are all very positive and cool. And so it's great for us to be able to be there for them during this time and talk to them and see how they're doing, because everyone is really scared. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It's a big question mark. But, again, I really hope that, and I'm confident that a lot of good will come out of this, because people are kind of all, circling the wagons and coming together.
Definitely. Well, how do you think this is going to change the entertainment industry as a whole? I mean, literally, was it Friday night? I rented Trolls World Tour on my.
Yeah, you didn't own it?
No, I didn't do the owning. I didn't give me the option to rent. At least I didn't see. It only gave me the option to rent.
All right, fair enough. You'll buy it later.
I'll get it later. My daughter Posey absolutely loves Trolls. I
love Trolls. Trolls is great.
It's so good. It's so funny.
Yeah.
So we rented that on our TV, and we watched the whole movie with Posey, and she loved it. And I was like, this is so weird, because this is a movie that was a theatrical release. It was supposed to go to the theaters, and now it's going directly to streaming and TV. So how do you think it's going to change the whole industry for entertainment? I know that's broad because there's different sectors and whatnot, but still, how do you think it change?
It's interesting. I think that, when radio came around, everyone was like, oh, books are dead. Newspapers are dead. That's it. But no, books and newspapers are still around. And then when TV came around, they're like, radio's dead. Video killed the radio star, right?
Yeah.
And on and on. When streaming came around, movie theaters are dead. I don't know. I think that or the internet, everything else is dead. The internet's taking. I've never thought that was true. Nothing really ever goes away. Look at records came back in a huge way. So, I think it's one of those things where it's going to change the entertainment industry for sure. I don't think theaters are going to go away forever because, like you say, be it Trolls or be it Dunkirk or anything, that stuff will still exist. I do think it has accelerated the whole streaming, enjoy things at home, enjoy things right now, whatever process.
I mean, Quibi's only, 15-minute episodes, 10-minute episodes?
10 minutes, But again, it's one of those things where, I think where it's going to change is not on the consumer side. I think where we're going to see a big change is in the sales side and the advertisement side, because basically, you take a look at streaming. The big change there with the entertainment industry was not that you can watch stuff at home. TV already existed. You could already watch movies, all these things. It was, there's no ads. Now it's subscription based. And that's not a sexy answer, but I think that is the answer to your question, which is, I think it's really going to change. So anyway, what happened with streaming and all that stuff was subscription integrations. When you look at digital video, And, you know, you used to see pre-rolls on everything, and you still do. But then like YouTube Red came out, and you know, there's a lot more integrations, and like, you know, whatever, like Oscar Mayer paying for somebody to make a viral video.
Yeah.
That's the way the entertainment industry changed around those things. It was kind of on the money side. And I think that's where we're going to see a change moving forward. I don't know what that is. I couldn't predict that, but I don't think that this is going to change. It's going to make a dramatic change in how we're, you know, getting content. It's not all of a sudden, oh, now everybody gets spores and we sniff it. Now, you know, that will eventually come with the PlayStation 10. But I think that that's the way. It's the money part of the industry is going to change, and because everybody likes to make money, they will figure out a way to change in that way. And the other thing I think is, whenever you have these big events, tragic events, you know, so things like 9/11, or even things like, you know, these big events happening in the world, you know, creatively, you have these people who are making things and writing and directing and painting and singing. That affects them. And I think that this is going to be really interesting in that way. I'm really interested to see the subjects that people, you know, that people gravitate towards when they're making things. I think that that's exciting. You know, already we're seeing unicorns are on their way out and llamas are in their way in when it comes to kids' toys. That's a huge change.
It's true.
But being serious, you know, I do think, you know, like after 9/11, you saw a lot of these, you saw a lot of people processing, a lot of creative people processing things by making stuff that dealt with that. And I think we're going to be seeing that for the next 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 years. You know, look at World War II. We're still seeing World War II movies today. So I think that this is going to, in that way, have a very long tail when it comes creatively to those things.
Definitely. So I want to switch gears real quick. So gaming has obviously been huge right now. It's huge in general, but I mean, just right now, it's come to the forefront. I mean, on ESPN they were streaming Durant versus somebody in NBA 2K, and I was like, this is crazy.
It's insane. Yeah,
it's nuts. And it's amazing to see that. So, and I think that this, I wish you guys would, and you might be, I have no idea, doing some more of what's it called, Clueless Gamer, because I feel like having Conan at home trying to play a game is hilarious, because it's so perfect for the time right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with esports coming so far to the forefront right now, and gaming, how do you think that's going to change that industry? That it's really like, my dad watched an esports what's it called, an indie race, like it was crazy. I'm like, this is amazing. He's like, oh, this indie race is great. I'm like, that's a video game. Like, they're playing at home.
Right.
So like, how do you think it's going to change now that people like that are watching and whatnot?
Well, I think the biggest change is going to be kind of exactly what you're saying. I think that people who didn't see gaming as a real form of entertainment, be it watching indie racing, be it watching, you know, Madden, 2K, you know, whatever. I think everybody thought of it. People who don't like video games, I think all thought of it like World of Warcraft or League of Legends, which are both great, but it's a stiff cup of tea. You know, it's not for everybody. So I think that in that way, I think it has really, really opened up the audience for gaming, which is awesome, because games, as you know, have such a wide spectrum. You look at Call of Duty, you look at Animal Crossing, they're both video games. It's wild. And so I think that's the change that I hope lasts the longest, is it finally gets legitimized in mainstream. Because you know, whatever, 90% of people play video games. My mom plays gummy drops all the time. She's a gamer. That's a video game. So, so I think that is kind of the coolest thing, is that as people won't think there's such a high barrier to entry, because there's not. You can play any kind of game, and it'll finally get legitimized as a form of entertainment, which is great. Especially like you look at The Last of Us. You know, a lot of these games are basically like movies anyway. And I think it's really interesting. A lot of my friends, you know, when I started doing streaming, like, I don't know, a long time ago, all my friends were like, I don't get it. Why would I watch somebody play a video game? And now people are watching it, you know, like Twitch is bigger than ever, and it's fun. Just like it's fun watching football, It's fun to watch somebody play something when they're great at it, or like me with Bus Simulator, when they're terrible at it and they run on the curb a lot. 900 euros for hitting a light pole, by the way, is way too high in Bus Simulator. But it's exciting and it's fun, and I'm really glad to see more people coming to video games because, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like in a weird way. I also like comic books, and I think comic books, when people started calling them graphic novels, it gave certain people like license to be like, oh, I'm going to go read a graphic novel, and people would never say I'm reading a comic book. So I'm kind of waiting for a new phrase other than video games, for people to, like, I don't know, like video entertainment or something. So then the pretentious people can be like, oh, I'm experiencing video entertainment instead of video games, I think that I honestly think that's one of the big things. So I think that's incredibly exciting. I think everybody out there should play video games. It's so fun. Tom Nook in Animal Crossing, I hope he gets what's coming to him because he's the worst. That little raccoon is the worst person I've ever met in any video game. He's such a villain. Tom Nook.
Well, so other than the Bus Simulator, which is hilarious, what other games have you been playing right now, or can you recommend to people to kind of get their minds off things or to try to be creative?
Oh, I think figure out what kind of entertainment you like. Video games or gaming entertainment or video, whatever I'm calling it.
Yeah.
Whatever you like to watch or read or listen to.
Yeah.
There is a game out there that is perfect for you. So if you love sci-fi, get into Mass Effect. If you like, trolls, get into Animal Crossing. If you like horror, Evil Within 2. There's so many games. I like the site Metacritic.com is one of my favorite sites because it's kind of an aggregate review site. They have movies, books, music on there and video games. And so you can see, I go on there myself a lot to be like, oh, I want to play a horror game. And I'll go on Metacritic and be like, oh, here's a good one. Here's a bad one, whatever. Moons of Medan, Michelle Watkins. Moons of Madness or Man of Medan, I think is what you're thinking of. Gaming entertainment, says Jesse. But so I think that there's something out there for everybody. So it depends. I mean, again, like Bus Simulator is awesome. Farming Simulator, there's all these simulator games that are really fun. And that's great. It just kind of depends what your thing is. By the way, you could get a million things on your phone also. Like my 6-year-old nephew loves Crush 'Em All. And that's a game where you're just like, you're like a little warrior and they're just fighting other stuff. That's really fun too. So I think look deep inside yourself, decide what kind of thing you want to experience, and then go, you can just Google a game and do it that way because there's so many great games out there. So it's hard to pick. But a game like BioShock I've been playing, and that's like, that's a movie. You're playing a really fun movie, which is great. So
seriously, my brother works for Blue Point Games, as you know, and he's been throwing all these games at me, and I'm like, dude, I got like, just give me one, and like, let's focus on that, and then we'll go on, like, because there's so many out there, obviously, and I think sometimes people don't know where to start, like with what games. That's great advice.
And also, like, by the way, can I just say, in terms of like, I know we're all like watching Tiger King and all this other stuff. It's okay to not finish stuff.
Yeah.
I've given myself permission. If something's boring or I don't like it, if there's a book, I don't need to finish it, man. I got planes backed up on the runway. All right. Let's just move around. So if you don't like a video game, put it down. Like, just try something else. If you don't like a movie, if you don't like a TV show, you don't have to finish watching it unless that TV show is Love is Blind. And then you have to watch it, including the reunion episode, because everyone is insane on that show.
I haven't seen it. Have you live streamed you watching that show?
God, no. Do people just want to see me screaming for 10 hours?
Potentially. You never know. Like, it's...
You know what I have been really liking, though? And here's a recommendation for people. It's free on YouTube. It's a British show called Taskmaster.
Okay.
And it's basically this comedian, Greg Davies, he and these other 5 comedians, he gives them dumb tasks to do. And it's like a competition show. Oh, my sweet Jesus. It's funny. Free on YouTube, Taskmaster. I'm loving it. There's 5 seasons. It's stuff like empty a bathtub in the least amount of time. Like, get these 3 yoga balls up on top of this windy hill. Like, it's ridiculous. It's so funny. Highly recommend.
That's a lot. I've never.
It's great. It's so funny, and it's free. YouTube. It's free.
All right, awesome. I'll have to check that out. It's good.
Yeah.
So before we end, I wanted to ask you, like, what is your biggest hope for people when this is over? And it could be in general overall. It could be for the entertainment industry. It could be just for life. Like, what is your biggest hope coming out of this pandemic for everyone?
I think that I'm seeing a lot of people supporting one another. I'm seeing a lot of really great, a lot of really great teamwork. I'm seeing a lot of respect for doctors and nurses, and I think that that's what I want to see continue. Like, there's been a lot of really great goodwill, I think, on the ground from people helping each other out. People delivering groceries for the elderly so they don't have to go to the store. Like, just saying hi to strangers. It could be as simple as a smile underneath a mask, or as great as someone helping someone else out financially because they can't pay their rent. That's what I hope continues. Before this pandemic, that does happen in life also. It's not like everyone was super mean to each other before this started. But I do think there is this giant, it does really feel like, and I've been really excited to see this, people are coming together, not just one-on-one, but also globally, like countries helping each other out with funding and masks and ventilators and stuff. And that's what I'd love to see. Again, come out of this is I hope that we remember to be positive, to help each other out, to say, a kind word. You have no idea how far a kind word can go. Yeah. And like we started in saying in terms of this live stream, just communicating and talking to each other and realizing you can video chat with people. My childhood friends, who again, I only see once a year, I've been hanging out with them and we've been trading music a lot, and it's been awesome. Like, why did we only see each other once a year? This is ridiculous. People who can't go home for Thanksgiving or don't want to go home for Thanksgiving once a year, they can Skype with their families whenever they want. And I think that that's really great. And I hope that that's what continues out of this. And also everybody who's out there who's felt the need to make something, I hope you continue making something. And I hope you are finding that to be cathartic. I hope it's fine. It's giving you happiness. And I hope that you keep doing it, and so, yeah, the world is changing, and things are very dark and scary. But again, like a forest fire, there's always new growth out of something bad. And that's the new growth I love seeing. That's what I hope continues. There have been some great memes, which are fantastic. So, yeah. Tom says, I tried to post this before. Can we get a bunch more Death Stranding-like games? Now it's become our reality. I don't think we need more Death Stranding games if that's our reality. That's what we have. But yeah, Hideo was a little very thought ahead when he could see the future. But yeah, so anyway, that's what I hope comes out of it. And I don't know. Stay positive. Wash your hands, don't touch your face, isolate, hydrate, remain hopeful. That's it. We'll get through this. It's a scary time, but we'll get through it. And the way we get through it is together. So
yeah, no, that's great. My wife is a teacher, and teachers, people have their things with teachers and whatnot. And it's so funny now to see all the appreciation for teachers.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, I have to watch my kid for like 8 hours and they're insane. It's like, yes, but times up by 20 because the teacher has to deal with all of them. So it's funny.
And then teach them and then make them learn something.
Yes. It's funny to see how, these industries like nursing and healthcare and teachers and food workers and all that stuff have been getting so much appreciation.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Cashiers. Yes. Grocery workers. Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Delivery people. I mean, again, you're right. I think it's one positive thing has been, that the focus has really come on these people who deserve it and deserve the accolades and have been looked over for far too long and marginalized. And and I hope that continues when this is done, because those people make our world work.
Yeah.
And they are very, very important, way more important than a dumb guy wearing a bad shirt in a California apartment. Like, these people are doing real work and have been and will continue to do that. And they deserve praise. So I hope that continues.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for doing the show. This is great.
Of course. No, I mean, when I reached out to you, I was so glad that you said yes, because I knew that you'd give great advice. And obviously people, in the comments and whatnot, and people have been texting me about how great, the advice that you've given, especially on creativity. Because I do feel like people hear that word and they think that some people are creative and some people aren't. And that's not the case. Like, anyone can do something. Totally. And it's so great to hear that from someone doing it at such a high level like you are. So, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, of course, dude. Yeah, and also like being creative can also just be make a great meal for your family or for yourself. Like, like putting tuna fish and macaroni and cheese. Boom, creative. Does it taste great? I think so, but people hate me for it. So there you
go. That should be we should do a poll of that. Like,
oh God, it is good though. Give it a chance.
All right, I'm a vegetarian. I can't try, but I'll have someone else. I'll have someone else try it for me. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll definitely talk to you soon. So yeah.
Awesome.
See you later. Thanks.
Thanks, man. Bye, guys.
Yeah.